And so now we're going to talk about middle school, ages 10 to 13. And so this is all about social lens. How do my peers see me? What will they think about me if they realize that I only have one parent and not two? What will they think about me if they realize that I'm the only child? I don't have a sibling anymore. Are they still going to be my friend? Are they going to look at me weird? Are they going to look at me different? And so it's all about the social lens. There's a documentary that was done many years ago in the UK, and I wish I could remember the name of it. I had seen it years ago, but what they did, they interviewed children who are now adults. What was it like for you to lose your parent as a teenager at a young age? And I remember there were two sisters talking about the death of their father. And one of the sisters, she said that whenever her dad had died, her mom kept the two sisters at home to be able to grieve and to work through things. And she shared that when she went back to school, her friends stopped talking to her. Whenever she talked about her dad, her friends would shy away or they would change the subject. And she talked about just how alone she felt because her friends didn't want to talk about her dad, or they just simply shied away from her, walked away. Fast forward a few years, she learned what really happened behind closed doors. So she learned that whenever her mom had kept them from school, kept them at home for those 2 weeks, she learned that the mom had called the teacher and said, "Hey, just to let you know, I'm keeping them home from school for 2 weeks because their dad has died. Just to let you know what's going on." And so the teacher then relayed that information to her peers. I said, "You guys, when your friend comes back, just let you know her dad died. So she talks about it, or if it's mentioned, just try not to talk about it because you want her to be happy. To try not to talk anything about her dad or even your dad because you don't want her to feel sad." And so hopefully you're able to see just how challenging that was for her to not even be able to talk about her dad with her peers. And so I encourage you, especially those of you who work with families and you may have access to the school system, if you're able to talk to teachers, get a release form to be able to communicate with the teachers, the school counselors. Most schools now have a school counselor. To be able to communicate with them. If you're able to have an entire session, that those are great to have, where it's you, the parent, the child, and the teacher or the school counselor all in one session or in one meeting, whether it's through the phone even. Those are the best ones because everyone's on the same page on how do we want school to look? How do we want life to look since dad, since mom, since caretaker, since sibling has died? How do we want our peers to interact with us? What are some things that you want them to talk to us about or not talk to us about? What are some fears you may have? And so the benefit of also including the school counselor is that, let's say in class, somebody makes a comment and our client becomes overwhelmed. It's important that the school counselor is aware of what's going on and she has a list of coping skills that we've been working on with our clients. And she's able to pull out that folder and say, okay, these are some of your coping skills. Let's focus on some of these coping skills. Let's help us to get to a stable place. Let's help us be able to express the sadness and the grief that you're experiencing right now. And so again, there's a lot of benefits of having access to school systems. So if you do, please utilize those resources. And so also when it comes to this particular age range, suppression happens. So some moments they want to talk about it, other moments they don't want to talk about it at all. They don't want to talk about it. They want to avoid it altogether. Sometimes it's to fit in with their peers. And sometimes it's because it hurts too much. The pain hurts a lot. Going back to the DSM, it had mentioned hallucinations. So many times around this age, hallucinations can happen. Usually around maybe 9 to 12 years old. Sometimes little ones, they might share with you in session. Yeah, I walked into the living room and I thought I saw my granddad. Or I walked into this space and I thought I saw my sister. That is very normal, very typical for that age. Some clients I've worked with said that they had dreams. Their parent came to them in a dream. And so sitting with them in those moments and making sure that it doesn't get to a place of becoming detrimental. So for example, there's this young girl I was working with, she's a teenager, and unfortunately her parent had died. And she talked about how her parent would come to her in her dreams. And as time went on, I began to notice that she was sleeping more and more. And so I followed up with her on that. And she's like, yeah, I try to sleep as much as I can, just in case my mom comes back and wants to visit me. And so that's when I recognized, okay, at first it was helpful, but now it's becoming concerning because we're not engaging with our friends. We're not going into the community the way we used to go into community. We're not engaging with family the way we used to. Instead, we're trying to sleep so we can see mom again. And so we talked about what was great about seeing mom. What are some other ways you felt connected to mom in those dreams? Now, in waking life, what are some other things we can do to feel that same type of connection, that same type of comfort that you felt in the dream? So it's about diverting our clients into from something that's unhealthy, something that's becoming detrimental, to was another avenue we can utilize to still get that same comfort level, to still get that same gratification that you got from this other thing. And so, again, I really enjoy working with little ones of this age who's experienced losses because there's so many different factors that play a role in this. And it's helping them to get to a healthy place with their grief, to learn to live alongside their loss in a healthy way. So now we're going to fast forward to high school, ages 14 to 18. There's a lot of existential questions popping up. What is the meaning of life? Why am I here? What is the reason for this? What is the reason for that? What is the reason of the planet? So a lot of questions about even what happens after death. Do we continue existing? Do we cease to exist? Do we become reincarnated? And the list can go on and on. And so, as I didn't mention this before, but it is crucial that if you're working with little ones, to be mindful of spiritual orientation. Because sometimes little ones can ask, where is mommy? Or where is sissy? And so it's important that we have those one-on-one conversations with parents so that we're all on the same page. This is your spiritual orientation. This is your belief of what happens after death. And so that way, when you're talking to your little ones, you're sharing the exact same information that the family is sharing with the child. And so, going back to high school, justice and fairness is something that really becomes to the forefront of their mind. You might hear them say, well, that's not fair. Justice should be served, or it's just not right that this happened. And so just being mindful that pops up. Sometimes there could be a lot of anger and sadness and disappointments behind those statements. So giving space and time to be able to explore the sadness or disappointment that might be behind some of those statements. And then depending on the relationship that the person had in high school age had with their parents. So for example, if it's a male and their dad died and they had a really strong bond, really strong connection, many times during this age, they're already struggling with their identity, but sometimes that struggle can get to a higher level because of that, their father dying, or vice versa. If it's a daughter and a mother and they had a really a really strong bond, and then the mother dies, many times she can begin to question her identity as well. And so going on to this age range, many times people are driving. They have more freedom, more access to, if they don't have a vehicle, their friend has a vehicle and they're driving and going places. And so sometimes during this age, many times after major loss, there could be an onset of substance use. So just keep that in mind, whether it's alcohol or drugs. Sometimes the pain, the hurt, the disappointment can be so intense, so challenging, so overwhelming that they might turn to substance use. And so just be mindful of that, and making sure that everyone's on the same page at the beginning of sessions. If teenager is doing something related to alcohol or drugs or substances, how do we have that conversation with parents? Do we have a family session, or do we give space for the child to tell their parent? So making sure that we're having those conversations up front, usually during intake. I know I share with my little ones, I'm not the person who keeps secrets. If there's something going on that's concerning, just be aware that we'll probably have a family session to talk about it all together. So sometimes setting it up at the beginning, however you choose to set it up, during intake can be very helpful. So when situations like this pop up, Everybody already knows the rules. Everyone knows what's going to happen next. We're going to have a family session to figure out how can we give support related to substance use as well. Also, during this age, it's important to be mindful after major loss that sometimes teenagers can become very engrossed in this idea of death. They can become very preoccupied with death. So that's something to keep in mind as well. It's natural experience. It's natural for some to experience that after grief or after a loss. The only time where it becomes concerning is, of course, if they're actually having suicidal thoughts or attempting to experience death. So it's important to keep that in mind.